Hello, and welcome to Ivani's Blacked Out Stories, where fictions meet reality.
Hello, and welcome back to my Blackout Stories. And here is a story from our /NuclearRevenge about a child's own revenge.
Greetings, blacked out listeners. This is a story about how my dad's girlfriend tormented my childhood and abused me as a child, and how I sought revenge as a teenager. But before we go further, please do me a favor and like and subscribe to Ivani's Blacked Out Stories. I've wanted to tell this story for so long, and I figured this would be the perfect place. First, I apologize if the spelling and grammar aren't amazing. I've written this out in one sitting and don't have the energy to edit. When I was about 10 years old, my dad got a new girlfriend, Juanita. Juanita was an evil monster. When I first met her, she was lovely and friendly. I quickly liked her. But over the years, everything went downhill fast. It started small. Juanita would steal my things and then deny it. Of course, everyone believed her. She'd tell me that my dad loved her more than me and that if she wanted to, she could click her fingers and he'd never see me again. She would even read my diary, then tell everyone what I'd written, and she reported me to the RSCPA for abusing my animals, and it wasn't true. After a couple of years, she had my dad aggressively laying his hands on me. Yes, I know he was an adult with choices, and I hold him just as responsible. She would constantly tell my dad how bad I was and encourage him to hurt me. After a while, he'd always snap and end up doing what she wanted. There are so many more things she did, but you get the picture. My dad and Juanita separated when I was about 16 years old, but they had a house together still. It was around this time, as a teenager who was depressed and miserable, that I decided I'd get even. I spent months on my plan, and this is what I did. I wanted Juanita's entire life to fall apart all at once, so everything had to be perfectly timed. I started off by getting her fired and a minor criminal record. You see, Juanita worked at a police warehouse for seized items, but naughty Juanita was stealing from the warehouse, so I made notes on what she stole and when. Once I had a decent enough list, I anonymously contacted her boss with my list. Juanita was immediately suspended, and after a few weeks, she was found to be guilty of stealing. She was immediately fired and charged with theft, including theft of a Class C substance. Now Juanita was unemployed and pretty much unemployable. On to stage 2. Juanita, with no income, needed to sell the house as she was now unable to pay her mortgage. My dad also wanted to sell so he could move in with his new girlfriend. So I made the house unsellable and pretty unpleasant to live in. My dad and Juanita were stupid and never locked their back door. I didn't have keys, so I'd sneak in when I knew they were out and hide disgusting things. Bugs everywhere, old prawns hidden under floorboards. I even stitched some old prawns into the bottom of the curtains. Dead mice everywhere, including under Juanita's pillow. I even placed alive mice in the pantry. The house stank, and no one could figure out why. Estate agents refused to list it or would only list it for far under the value, and potential buyers would leave quickly after no one could explain the source of the vile smell. By this time, little Miss Juanita was approaching bankruptcy, which was exactly what I wanted. Only one area of her life left to destroy. Juanita had been in a relationship for a year or so with this guy. I can't even remember the poor guy's name. We'll call him John. Well, Juanita was cheating on John and with his own father, of all people. Poor John proposed to Juanita. He needed to know who she really was. One day when Juanita had John's dad over, I got into the house via the unlocked back door. I grabbed her mobile which she'd left in the kitchen. It took a few attempts and a lot of house watching to get lucky with the phone. I then texted John from her phone, pretending to be Juanita. I told him I was sick and asked him to come over. Of course, good old John rushed over. I unlocked the front door and texted him, letting him know to let himself in as I was in bed sick. I left and hid around the area. The drama was intense. Juanita and John's dad are half naked, chasing after John in the street, screaming and crying. I think John might have even punched his dad before driving off. Obviously, the relationship was over, and John's dad even ditched her in an attempt to get his son's forgiveness. So Juanita was now alone, broke, unemployable, facing charges, and about to be bankrupt. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Feel free to debate one another if you see this presentation as entertaining. Leave a comment and subscribe, but we are not finished just yet. Here are a couple of comments from the Redditors.
Comment number 1 states, I am so sorry for the pain she caused to you when you were younger. That took a lot of courage and wit to get your revenge on her after what she did. You did John a massive favor even though it broke his heart. You exposed her for the nasty, disgusting cheat she is. Comment number 2.
I think the key is not letting it eat you up inside. Like with abuse, you should never forget it so you don't end up in a similar situation. But if you dwell on it and keep that hatred, it can be detrimental. For some people, getting that revenge can help with the process. For others, it won't. But most importantly, not letting it control your life and giving it more brain time than it's worth is the healthiest thing possible. Just because you forgive someone doesn't mean you have to play nice or have them in your life anymore.
Third comment states,
Forgiveness is something you do for yourself, not for the person you are forgiving. Otherwise, the hurt, anger, and pain can fester inside you and turn you into a bitter, cynical, angry person. Forgiving doesn't mean you forget. It just means you let go of that ugliness inside you and move on with your life. You are under no obligation to let that person back into your life, though, or to forget what they did to you. I forgave my father for the childhood abuse. That doesn't mean I've visited his grave since he died 4 years ago. That doesn't mean I've forgotten what he put me through. It just means I don't let the pain shape me into a person that I don't like.
And now for the final comment, in which the editor posting has doubts.
I realize how unreal it sounds, but that's the whole story. You're not wrong there. She brought her new boyfriend's dad over that she was cheating with to the house she shares with her ex and his daughter. Called the RSPCA, claiming you abused your animals. Even though it's fairly easy for them to spot signs of abuse in animals and even how they react to their abuser. So that would have come to nothing at all. And you somehow knew she was stealing from the police warehouse, and you somehow knew the exact things she was specifically stealing from there. I even stitched some old prawns into the bottom of the curtains. And when inspecting the house, no one checked the state of the curtains or noticed that the smell of fish was slightly stronger by the curtains. Right? After a few weeks, she was found to be guilty of stealing. She was immediately fired and charged with theft, including theft of a Class C substance. You mentioned RSPCA, which means you're in the UK. In the UK, it's illegal to possess, supply, or prescribe Class C drugs. Possessing them alone carries a maximum sentence of 2 years imprisonment and a fine. Possession with intent to supply carries a maximum sentence of 14 years and a fine. You're claiming she stole Class C drugs and other things from the police warehouse. And they only suspended her, and you didn't mention at least a fine? Nah, she'd have been locked up for that. Your story is full of many holes. There is a chance one of these things may have happened, but not in the way you've said. At most, you've over-exaggerated all of it.
And that concludes this story. And hopefully you enjoyed it. And if so, please consider my invitation to subscribe for more Avani's Blacked Out Stories.